Well, according to FanDuel, it would appear all but a certainty that the Chicago Bears will be selecting Caleb Williams first overall in the draft on Thursday. A massive minus 20,000 favorite for Williams to land with Chicago. And we're going to talk odds a little bit more here with our guy Luke Willson, the Canadian tight end from LaSalle, Ontario, that we love to chat with. Luke, the draft just days away. So we all know about Williams going to the Bears. That's a virtual lock. And it appeared until late last week that the Commanders had their eyes on Jaden Daniels from Florida State. The odds have shifted quite a bit on this one. Drake May from North Carolina has now really entered the picture for the Commanders at number 2. Regardless of which quarterback goes number 2 to the Commanders, from what you saw last season from Chicago and from Washington, if either of these teams actually get this pick right, do you feel like they're legitimate contenders going into this season?
Jay, I'll start with the Commanders, and my answer to that would be absolutely not. And it does hurt my heart because, Dan Quinn is my guy. I would consider him a friend. But that team is far, far, far away based on last season. They have a long road to go, and a quarterback is not going to fix their issues. They're just their issues. Again, they have so many of them. So I do think it's a step in the right direction. Get a guy you can build around. I think Dan Quinn will get the defense playing better, but they need a lot of help. And you look at their record last year, it was awful, and it was really especially bad down the stretch. I mean, this team started the season winning their first 2 games, the Commanders, and basically should have pretty much lost the rest of the year. They have 2 wins in there that, are okay wins, but it was tough. They got blown out a lot, and I'll just stop ragging on the Commanders because they need a lot of help. On the other hand, the Bears are an interesting situation. They're in a very tough division. You look at the Lions, I think the Lions are going to be great again next season. I think the Packers are going to be a very, very good team. Jordan Love, another season coming. I think they're going to be rolling. So they're in a tough division, but the Bears did go 7-10 last year, and their biggest issue was offense. And in my opinion, within that offense was throwing the ball consistently, especially down the field. A lot of games where, the throwing yards were kind of juiced, if you will, were a lot of wide receiver screens or just kind of one-on-one 50-50 balls where DJ Moore made a big play. So the question is, to me, how great is Caleb Williams? Is he as good as advertised? Because if he can come in here, have a CJ Stroud-esque rookie season, now you're looking at a team that could really be fighting for a wild card spot. Again, they're in a tough division, but defensively they're solid. They, are very good on that side of the ball. I think they have a very talented running back group. You put a quarterback in there that's allegedly that good and can learn fast. Again, I look at CJ Stroud. This team could be on the border of the playoffs. Again, I'm not saying the division here. I don't want any Lions fans jumping down my throat after this one. I'm just saying, if Caleb Williams is as advertised, this team could be a borderline playoff team.
You wonder about the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe the most fascinating team in this draft, Luke. The odds for which quarterback the Vikings will select, also brought to us by FanDuel. J.J. McCarthy, the one that everyone's talking about. He's the favorite. Michael Penix Jr., he's in there. Bo Nix is in there. Of course, they lost Kirk Cousins in the offseason. They bring in Sam Darnold to potentially compete for a starting job. My question for you, Luke, is how desperate should the Vikings be to draft a quarterback? Do you think Kevin O'Connell can make the most of Sam Darnold for this season? Do you think he might actually be someone now? He was drafted so high, as we remember those years ago. Or do they actually need to make some moves with those 2 first-round picks they have, move up in the draft and get someone like McCarthy?
Personally, I move up and I get someone like McCarthy or whoever their scouts think gives them the best chance to win. And the reason I'm saying that, Jay, is you look at this team, last season. Kirk Cousins in there, I think they're a great football team. Without Kirk Cousins, it was a struggle. I mean, I love the passer, and he won a couple games, and then that really fell off a cliff, which broke my heart. Nick Mullins comes in later in the year, and he's throwing the ball all over the place. He had a couple games against the Lions where he threw for 1,000,000 yards, but he also had a ton of turnovers. You have Kirk Cousins on that team last year, and they're a playoff team. So to me, you go out and you get a quarterback that you can at least build. And there's a few other reasons I want to emphasize on this. first and foremost, defensively, they played pretty well down the stretch, and I think they really bought into the new defensive coordinator, Brian Flores' philosophy. He had that defense running around, really playing some good football. So I think their defense is solid and will continue to be solid. And then the next thing I'll say is, when you have a player like Justin Jefferson at wide receiver, and he's going to be coming up for free agency, in the near future, you want to show him like, hey, we got this young guy in here, and yeah, it might not be this year, but in 2 to 3 years, you guys can be a dynamic duo, stuff of legend style, when you're talking about it years from now. But if all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got Nick Mullins from last year, we got, Sam Darnold's coming in, who's going to win the starting job? We don't know. At that point, it gets like, if I'm Jefferson, I'm like, I'm getting out of here because they're wasting my talent.
Yeah.
So to me, I think 1, it's their biggest need. 2, you want to keep Jefferson happy. And 3, I think the defense is good enough where you don't need to draft a guy on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think you got it right there. We've got this covered all week long. Luke, great to have you on the show, my friend. We will see you very sooner rather than later. This season will be here, buddy.
I can't wait.
Looking forward to the draft, too. This Thursday, we've got it for you on TSN. Tune in to see Caleb Williams go first overall, and then it could be chaos after that. That's why you got to watch. And the best part is our show follows the first round on Thursday night.